first meet and greet moderator. And so this is Javier. Woo! This is Javier. He is an amazing physical therapist, and he's starting his own practice. Or, have you already started it?
Yeah, it's open. I'm in it right now.
It's open. And so he's started his own practice, and he's a amazing part of the team. And so I'm so happy to have him on here. And what we thought we'd do for these Facebook Lives is just let you meet the moderators, let you know the face behind the awesome videos and the cool posts and anything else. So Javier, why don't you just go into, a little bit about yourself and maybe like a cool, what do you love to do? Like a cool hobby or something funny?
Something funny. Okay, man, I'm not that funny. But so quick introduction. My name is Javier Carlan. And before I even get going, I just want to say thank you again, Emma, for having me on. And thank you everyone in this group for accepting me as one of your moderators. And so I'm actually 2 years out of PT school now. I graduated in August of 2017, and it's been pretty amazing what's happened over the past two and a half years, and I'll share my story with you a little bit more. But I can actually, and I'll give you a quick tour of the clinic so you can take a look at.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be cool. Yeah. So so let's see. You asked me about something funny. Jeez. Oh.
Awesome. We have 10 people watching too. Yay, everyone! Thank you so much for watching, Javier. Lots of hearts. If you're on Facebook, share some hearts. Go ahead and comment below. Say hi to Javier, and let's see if we can get something funny out of him. Or like, what's a really cool hobby? How about that? That's easier. What do you love?
Really cool hobby. To be honest, right now, I just love work. Yes, I love learning. So I love to read. Exercise is a big one, of course. But to be honest, at this point in my life, I don't feel like work is work. I'm here till about 11 p.m., midnight sometimes, just working on the things that I know are going to create the future that I want. So my big hobby right now, I would say, is networking. I'm part of several networking chapters in my area.
That's not fun.
I love it, actually. It's a great time. So that's a big one. Learning more about business, learning more about marketing, and honestly, just serving. I've been serving new grads for a good amount of time now, but also just serving other physical therapists and healthcare professionals in general. I love, going to the beach and stuff like that. So just a few things, but I'm going to give you a quick tour. Let me actually, is this light on? Yeah, it is.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Todd. We got lots of love from Todd and Jeremy. Thanks, guys, for welcoming Javier.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So quick tour. So this is the waiting room. Got a nice comfy couch, pictures of clients, some merch.
This is a legit clinic you have, Javier. This is like
This is a legit clinic. Yeah, it's a legit clinic. Got my coffee, super important. I think I'm the only one that drinks these coffees, but hey, let's see. Got the cardio equipment right over there. Some awesome quotes. I got this one. I don't know if you all know David Bailiff, but
yeah, he's in the group.
Right
David Bailiff, he's another amazing moderator.
Yeah, kick it up a notch. Yeah. So this is it. 3 treatment tables in the back. We have, I call this my control center.
Wow. How many employees do you have, Javier?
Treatment rooms. Oh, right now I have a receptionist, and I'm the only therapist. So getting close to hiring a PTA soon, I hope.
Nice.
Yeah, and then this is a break room back here.
Wow.
So this is where my girlfriend's doing some nutrition consulting.
Wow.
So yeah, that's it.
I'm so incredibly proud. I mean, everyone give like hearts and awesome comments to Javier, because at just over 2 years after being a PT, he has this legit and beautiful office and clinic. So I really am astounded. Wow. That's freaking awesome. So what inspired you to start your own clinic?
Yes. Oh man. So basically it was my first year of PT school. The first year of PT school, like it's all new, it's exciting. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you're in there and you know what the mission is. The mission is to graduate PT school, become a physical therapist, and finally start making some real money, grown-up money, right? So first year PT school, you're, you know, heads in the books, you're grinding it out. And then I went into my first clinical internship, super excited. You know, I was driving. I just remember like driving to my first clinical internship on my first day, and I hadn't met anyone yet. So I was there, and to be honest, it was it was a nightmare. It was a total nightmare. The PT, the CI, who is definitely not in this group, he was not the nicest guy. He was not a nice guy at all. He was rude to the patients, to the other therapists there, and that was only one part of it. But everything else that happened, and honestly, you know, I had this experience, and during that time, I was like, you know what? But one bad experience is it's not all going to be this bad. But what really caught my attention was what the therapists that were working there were talking about. And a lot of it talks about things that we hear commonly in this group, right? Burnout, overwhelm, frustrations with the healthcare model, with you know, the poor quality care that they're basically forced to provide because of, as we know, decreased reimbursement rates, having to see more and more patients for the businesses to survive. And they were having all these, you know, struggles. But I think what really hit home was the fact that many of them were taking their work home with them.
Yes.
And I don't know if I can't see who's on right now, but if you can relate, just comment relate or something.
Well, actually, Mike wants you to show your abs. So,
well, that might be something funny, but right now they're non-existent because I haven't been working out as hard as I used to be.
But yes, no, I think many people definitely, if you can relate to the burnout, the frustration, type that below. But yes, no, many people, I think, like, I 100% can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason that really hit home was because basically, you know, people were frustrated with the fact that they had to take their work home with them. They're already tired. When they get home, you know, they have, you know, sons, daughters, their kids, their spouse that they want to spend time with, yet they have to get home already drained from the entire day of working with, you know, tons of patients in the way that they had their clinical system set up. And they would get home and just not spend that quality time with their family. They would get home, have to work for another hour or two, and by the time that they finally finished, number one, they were tired. Number two, kids probably went to sleep, or you know, they were so drained that all they wanted to do was crawl into their bed and, you know, do nothing for the rest of the night. So I would hear these stories as I was there for the 2 months that I was there, and it was like a quick, you know, shock to the nervous system, because one of the reasons that I got into the PT profession was to avoid that.
Yeah.
You know, I can kind of go back into my parents, you know, were successful business owners for a very short amount of time. And they were doing really well. Well, I was like 11, 12 years old when they had the business running, and they were doing really well, but they didn't have the financial knowledge. They didn't have they got lucky, essentially. And what happened was that they weren't careful with their money. So their business went, you know, down, and they lost everything. And basically I always equated, you know, entrepreneurship with pain, because my parents got divorced. And that kind of, now reflecting back on it, that was one of my big motivators to go into a very stable profession in physical therapy, and just really all healthcare professionals. As you know, you look up the top 10 jobs in the country, and PT is on there most of the time. So you look at those things, you see, oh, you know, pretty high salary for what we thought was a high salary.
I know, right?
They forget to mention the amount of debt that you put yourself in. So I started to really feel that in my first clinical internship. But again, I was like, you know what, Javi, it's one bad experience. It can't all be this bad. So I kind of went through my second year, because I didn't have my my second clinical internship into my third year. I went through my second year again, nose in the books, just studying my butt off, taking the practicals, the exams, everything. And then I finally get to my second clinical internship, and sure enough,
oh no,
I start hearing the same complaints, and I was like, oh my goodness, like what have I done? Like the very thing that I went into this profession to avoid, I'm kind of like starting to feel that again. So I quickly started like to search for answers, and many people didn't have them for me. No one was really telling me the things that I was searching for. So at the time, I started to listen to podcasts, started to really start to listen to people that were doing things a little bit differently, and not necessarily like them teaching me business concepts or anything like that. It was people who were, as an example, like Mike Reinold, all these physical therapists that were doing things a little bit differently. They either had podcasts, they had online courses, they had built their own businesses, and whether they were teaching the business concepts or just or teaching other like clinical aspects of physical therapy, they were doing something different. And I started to just fall into that a little bit more, started to learn from these people more and more. And I was like, okay, like these people seem to be happy. They seem to be fulfilled with where they're at and with the profession. So I need to learn more from them, because everyone else that wasn't in that world was not, from what it seemed like to me, they just weren't really happy. And I was like, if I follow what everyone else is doing, my path is likely to be the same. So I had to kind of start thinking about ways to do things a little bit differently. And then I started listening to one of my mentors, Greg Todd's Hunt for Greatness podcast, started listening to more business type podcasts, Therapy Insider, started to listen to, Aaron LeBowers and Paul Goffs and all these guys. And they were talking about, a lot of these business marketing concepts. But one quote that really struck home was like, I think it was in the Hunt for Greatness podcast. It was, if don't follow the herd, for they will lead you straight to the slaughterhouse. And I was like, well, that's pretty aggressive. But then I was like, oh shoot, like he's totally right. If I do what everyone else is doing, I'm going to end up where everyone else is at. And from what it seemed like many people just weren't happy. And to be honest, I had been kind of going through the posts in this group and the comments that people have, and it seems like that seems to be the case for the majority of the people here, which is unfortunate. But the great part about it is that you actually have more control than you think. So
yeah, you have options.
You have options. Yeah. Definitely have a lot of options. And obviously they can see from your work, Emma, and from Mike, and from all the other new moderators in this group that there is another way. There's a better way, right? So I started to dive into that a little bit more. But I realized that there was so much information out there that I had no idea, number one, existed, and number two, I didn't even know where to start. So at the time I was in my third year of physical therapy school, and it was like halfway through it, and I was like, you know what, like this is something that I know I need to learn more about, but I don't want to waste my time. I need someone to just tell me what to do and tell me the step by step, right? So I ended up investing in an online course. Most people thought I was crazy for spending the amount of money that I spent at the time while I was in PT school, not making money, but I did it anyway. And to be honest, like that was the greatest decision that I've ever made. And that's basically why I am where I am today. So that's kind of like the story of how I got here. So shortly after I took that course, I went to did my third clinical internship, which it was hard to concentrate because I was learning all this cool stuff.
You're like, I don't want this. I want to run my own business.
Right, exactly. Well, and that was my my inpatient clinical, which I come in with an open mind with everything. I kind of knew that wasn't going to be my jam, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to learn as much as I can from this. And I, again, didn't have a great CI, which is just, I'm like, how did I get such bad luck with this?
I know.
So I kind of went through that. And to be honest, like, I was like, oh God, I'm like watching paint dry here. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all. It just wasn't my thing. So especially while I'm learning all this new stuff, right? So I learned what I had to learn. My fourth clinical internship comes around, and that was a sports orthopedic facility that I was working at as well. I was an intern at. And during that time, because I had learned all this new stuff about business and marketing in the PT profession and just in the healthcare world, I asked my, she wasn't my boss at the time, but she was, the owner of the facility. I'm like, hey, listen, I've been learning some really cool stuff. And I love what you're doing here. I love that you do this. And I pointed out some specifics, but I really think that if you did this, oh my God, your business would explode. and I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I just took an online course like for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Right. But she kind of like brushed me aside. She's like, in her head, I'm sure she's like, oh, you're a student PT. Like, what do you know? Right. So I was pretty persistent, and I'm like, hey, listen, I really think I can help you. So she finally like gave in and said, you know what, let's meet at Starbucks for 20 minutes and you can talk to me about what you want to tell me. So we ended up going to Starbucks. It was like a 2.5-hour conversation. And at the end of it, she was like, man, Javi, like, I hate to admit this, but you actually know more about the intricacies of business than I do. And in my head, I'm like, what? I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't know. I just took an online course a few months ago, but outside, of course, I'm like super confident. It's like, yeah, well, come on. What do you expect? So after that, so that was my fourth clinical internship. And I got to the point where I was actually treating as a clinician, as a student PT for about 25 to 30 hours a week. And I was working on the business 10 hours a week. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, who gets this opportunity to do that, right? And then I basically helped them with their email marketing systems. I helped them host workshops. I built relationships with like a UPS and Royal Caribbean in the area. And I was doing all these really cool things. And I got to the point where I was doing so much for her that once my internship was close to being over, I was like, hey, listen, like, it's my last week. And she's like, oh my God, it's your last week. I'm like, yeah. Do you have any positions available? And to be honest, they didn't, but she ended up hiring me anyway because of all these other skills that I brought to the table. So basically, I graduated from PT school. I started off working there for my first job. 4 months into it, I'm still with them working full time. But I was like, you know what? I think I can do this for myself. So 4 months into it, I was still working full time, and this was down in Miami. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just start seeing patients on the side. So that's exactly what I did. I started. I got to the point where I was seeing about 6 patients an hour. Sorry, not an hour, not 6 patients an hour.
Like,
6
wow.
patients, 6 patients a week. Charging about $125 for the hour. And this is as like a recent new grad, 4 months out of school. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I did that for several months. I was kind of limited because I was still working a full-time job. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to go all in on this. So I moved to Tampa. I had a 6-month business residency here with one of my mentors. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this. So here I am. I know it's a long story, but that's basically how I got here.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that's why we're really excited to have you as one of our moderators, is because, you bring joy from burnout. You bring joy from frustration. And so that's what we were looking for, is people that can help inspire change in our group. So, I mean, in the group, if you have questions for Javier about how he started this business, if you're a new grad frustrated, post it below. He's super helpful. And that's why we brought him in, is because he has so much to offer in terms of business knowledge, growing a practice, just understanding the frustration that you all are going through. And yes, he's a PT, but I mean, OTs run their own practices too. Speech therapists run their own practices. And by the way, apparently your girlfriend has to come on, because we have some dietitians who are eager to learn from her too.
Ooh, awesome.
but so, I mean, we appreciate your honesty and, how transparent you've been with your feelings and this growth that you've had. And I think it's just impressive as to how quickly you've been able to transition from a new grad to a seasoned professional, plus running this amazing business. So we're just so excited to have you in this group, and I'm sure we'll be having tons more episodes, sharing your wins, and throughout your journey through the clinic. Like, please post how you're doing, how the business is going, like lessons learned, all sorts of that. Definitely
Awesome.
Was there any other last things you want to share with the group?
Yeah, so I don't want to, because I know it's easy to see, right, I'm kind of fresh out of school. I still consider myself a new grad. It's only 2 years out. But I don't want anyone to think that there aren't challenges, because there are. But at the end of the day, it's like one of those things, like I'm not special. Like, I'm not any different than any of you are watching this right now, or anyone in this group. And I think the main point that I want to drive home is that you all have a lot more control than you think. I think it's fear many times that holds us back from the very thing that we know we have to do. But if I can do it, you can do it too. And I just say this because my parents, immigrants. I'm half Mexican, half Cuban. Like, I moved here. My parents moved here when I was 2 years old. Like there's nothing special about me. I'm not. There's probably 90% of you all. This is gonna sound a ton of you are way smarter than I am. And I'm sure everyone here is smarter than I am. Like, there's nothing special about me. And the reason I say that is because I don't want you to feel like you can't do this. Like, you can do whatever you want to do in any profession, and the sky's the limit, really. It's just kind of pushing past those fears, and really just finding the people who are where you want to be, and reaching out to them and asking for their help, asking them the questions, seeking out their support, and trusting them with the advice that they give you, and not listening to the naysayers, because there are so many of them out there. So I just want to leave you all with those parting pieces of advice, because I know it's so easy to see all these people doing amazing things and thinking like, well, it's it'll work for them, or it won't work for me, or hey, they got lucky, or hey, whatever it is. Like, no, that's just another false belief that it's trying. You have to try. Is it hard? Yes, absolutely, it's hard. But what's the alternative? Like, so many people are scared of the unknown. But what you should fear is the known, because the known is what you have right now. And if you're not happy, then shoot, like, what other option do you have, right? So that's it. I mean, I can talk for days. So
no, I love that. Let's end on that. Exactly.
Okay.
Like, right now, if you're feeling frustrated, think deep inside as to like what you want to do. In this group, we are providing you with so many opportunities. Javier's route is just one option, and so that's just what this group is about. So we're excited, so excited, Javier, to have you, to have your voice, to have your passion, to have your energy, and maybe your six pack on this group. And everyone, just share your love for Javier. And please, if you have any questions, comment below, ask him, because he's here for you guys. And so we'll leave you with that. Have a good evening, and we will be having more moderator introductions soon. So look out. Bye, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, Javier.
Bye.
I have to figure out how to end it now.
That's my favorite part.
I'm like, oh no, do blank screen, blank screen. Okay, bye guys.
That's so